This is Trophy Gold, A Heart Hums in Darkness, Part 1. I think I'd like to start by having all of us introduce ourselves. So when I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for us to know about you. I will start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. I am the co-publisher of Trophy Gold, along with the game's creator, Jesse Ross. And I've run it a bunch and I love it. And I'm excited to run this. I have not actually run A Heart Hums in Darkness in a public way. So this is the first time I've ever done that on my channel. So that'll be fun. Let's go to Amanda.
Hi, everybody. I am Amanda. My pronouns are she, her. I'm just kind of around on the internet, playing games a lot, playing a lot of games here with Jason and crew. And I'm really excited to play this B game. It's going to be good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And let's go to Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin. My pronouns are he, him. I tend to live in the Eberron space. You can find me over on their Discord pretty regularly. But for today, I'm here playing some Trophy Gold with these guys, and I'm super excited.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Chaotic.
I'm Chaotic, and my pronouns are he, they. I play a lot of Trophy. I've actually ran the sister incursion, A Warm and Pleasant Hum, a lot. So this is going to be a fun time for me.
Fantastic. Thank you. And finally, James.
Hi, everyone. I'm James. My pronouns are he and him, and I've played and run quite a lot of Trophy Gold now. And I recently ran the Heart Hums in Darkness as well, and it was wonderful. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this from the book.
Indeed. I also just ran A Heart Hums or A Warm and Pleasant Hum last week, in fact. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with CATS. CATS is an introductory procedure that I like to do before I run a game. It is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I do this just to establish some basic expectations for what's going to be happening over the next 3 weeks. And so the concept of Trophy Gold. Trophy Gold is a fantasy adventure game about desperate treasure hunters. They are going into the lost and forgotten places of the world in order to find treasure. They are always on the knife's edge of sort of falling into basically like poverty from which they can't recover. And so they have to acquire treasure in order to maintain their adventuring lifestyle and to continue on in their pursuit of an extravagantly expensive drive that they're each trying to accomplish. The game is derived from Trophy Dark in terms of its rules, but it's very much a different game. Trophy Dark is a fantasy horror game, and Trophy Gold is a much more sort of traditional adventuring game, although it does have a sort of darker flavor and a more desperate feel than, say, Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. This particular incursion, as you may have discovered already, is kind of a sequel to the Trophy Dark incursion, A Warm and Pleasant Hum. It takes place like a number of months after the events of A Warm and Pleasant Hum. And indeed, I just ran that, and I'm going to try to incorporate some of the things that happened in that game into this particular incursion. And so that will start to be more apparent in future sessions. The initial sessions are not going to touch on that too much, but in any case, that's my plan. And so if you're watching this and you want to see the full story, go to my playlist that's called Trophy Dark Core Book, and you can find A Warm and Pleasant Hum there and see how the things that led up to this. Now, but it's about bees. That's the part I wanted to say. It's about bees, as you may have guessed from all of the honeycomb in our backgrounds right now. The aim of today is, after I'm done with my spiel, we're going to make characters, and then we are going to introduce them, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and start play. The aim of the characters in the story is to find treasure. That is your number one thing, is to find treasure so that you can satisfy your burdens and keep being an ongoing concern as far as being a treasure hunter goes. The aim of us as players, as we play, is to tell a good story. Now, that generally means doing whatever is needed to tell a good story, even if that means putting your character in unnecessary danger. That's probably more salient for Trophy Dark. And Trophy Gold, you should do your best to keep the characters alive. But it could be that there's no coming back from them like completely shattering or being destroyed. And so if that moment comes, lean into it and embrace it. Now, the tone of the game is, this is pretty dark incursion. It is, yeah, it's pretty dark. It has like some, no, it doesn't really, it has some like kind of lighter elements, but it's mostly a pretty dark incursion. That's kind of our feeling, I think. And then subject matter wise, we have a list of subject matter things, which I helpfully do not have pulled up. So give me 1 second. Thought I had everything ready to go, and of course I didn't. Okay, so subject matter. Body horror, confined spaces, graphic violence, harm to animals, insects, and spiders. That's probably the most significant one. Mannequins and religion. Those are the subject matter warnings. We're going to have 3 safety tools on the table. The first safety tool is the open door policy. You can leave for any reason. You don't have to explain yourself. The second safety tool is the X card. In the context of this call, what that means is if something happens in the story that you find to be uncomfortable in an unfun way, you can say X card or type it in the chat, and I will stop play and we'll change whatever we need to change. I might ask what is being X carded so I know what to adjust, but I won't ask why is it being X carded. And then we're going to be doing roaming lines and veils for our third safety tool. Roaming lines and veils means if we are about to approach subject matter that somebody hadn't thought of and they're like, oh, I don't think I want to do that, then we'll line it or veil it right then. A line is something we are not going to have in the game. A veil is something that we prefer to keep off screen. We're okay with it being in the story, but we're not going to role play it. And so that is sort of how that's going to go. Does anyone have any questions about cats? Okay, then in that case, we are going to go make characters, and so we'll pause the video so we can do that. Okay, we're back. We're going to go ahead and introduce these characters. Now, when we're introducing the characters, you can kind of stick to the basics for now if you wish. Occupation, background, drive is pretty important. If you want to tell us your skills and your rituals and things like that, you can certainly do that as well. The drive, you can, if you know something about your drive at this point, like you know what it means, by all means tell us, but there's a good chance that you haven't quite worked out all those details yet. And so feel free to go ahead and just kind of, like tell us what you know, but we can kind of wait until we start playing and kind of figure it out as we play. That's kind of what we're here to do anyway. So, so don't feel too concerned if you don't have it all like kind of straight in your head yet. I'm going to go in the order of the sheet. So Amanda, please tell us about Sybil.
I am playing Sybil, pronouns she, her. She is an herbalist by occupation. Her background is imprecise barber. Now, of course, we all know that barber has to do with hair, but it also has to do with the person who is in charge of keeping the, foliage on estates nice, sort of like a groundskeeper. But she was not very good and got fired. Also maybe stole a little bit, but that's okay. Drive is bribe the justicar so they erase your crimes. So she really wants to try and clear her name so she doesn't go to jail.
Fantastic. I love it. And what rituals did you choose?
Right now, I've got a frozen screen. And here we go, it's back. I chose Fountain, which is a forceful spring of water bursts forth from a location you touch, which I think is useful for herbalists. And Tadpole, keep your own mouth closed to allow a creature to breathe regardless of environment.
Good. Fun. And I see you have a training mark there, but that's an advancement. So let's take that off. All right, great. I love it. All right, let's go over to Kevin and Revel.
Yeah, I'm playing Revel, pronouns he, him. He is currently in this world a sellsword. He was once an errant knight. His drive is to break the geas placed by the Witch of Navask. I believe this is a geas placed on him. Skills are athletics, defense, surprise, and dueling, all following a certain theme. And he taking the ritual with him of smite, strike with a spiritual weapon.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, great. And let's go over to a returning character, Obeha. Chaotic, remind us who Obeha is.
Obeha is a unmasked Feyborn sorcerer. They are generally one of the more weirder compatriots of the trophy universe. They're trying to find the resting ground of the Morning Knights to become a masked Feyborn again. So basically become quote unquote human. The rituals are mask and ward, which is when I cover my face, I can hide from the senses of others. And ward is to protect a small area. And during a past incursion, I did pick up a third ritual, Scarecrow, which I can create a construct of straw and burlap that will hunt a named target endlessly.
Fantastic. I will note that in a warm and pleasant hum in the other playlist, in the Trophy Dark playlist, the Morning Knight was a big part of the story. So I shall do my best to merge these two ideas. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go over to James and Inda.
Inda is she, her, and Inda is a lady in probably her 60s who is a hedge and a hapless peddler who plies the routes of the trophy world and is looking for a big score to earn the right to her family's name. And her skills are improvisation, rituals, stories, and trading. She has 2 rituals, Tripwire, which is an illusory scene is triggered by an event of your choosing, an army, create illusory copies of yourself, and she basically looks fairly harmless, but is in fact a sort of arch rogue.
I love it. I've never seen either of those rituals in play, so that'll be fun. Okay, great. So yeah, this is an interesting group of characters. I'm excited to get going with them. Before I introduce the incursion and before we take a break, I do want to talk about a few important rules things. You don't need to know everything about Trophy Gold, either to play or to be watching this video, but I do want to cover just like some basic things to remind us of. So the first is that probably the most important thing to know is that this is a collaborative storytelling game. So I am the GM. I do have an incursion. I do have a sequence of events and activities that are going to happen at some point, but this is still very much a collaborative game, and the incursion does not have all of the story details that we're going to experience. It's a skeleton, I like to say, and the meat and blood is put onto that skeleton via what we all do together at the table. And there's different ways that happens. One of the ways it happens is I will pose questions to you, and your answering of the questions helps fill in the story and the world, right? Another way, a more mechanically direct way, is through the risk roll. Now, there is one part of the risk roll that is called the Devil's Bargain. The idea here in the Devil's Bargain is, so you're doing a risky action, you're building your die pool in order to do that action. And in order to get a bonus die, you can accept a Devil's Bargain from myself or one of the other players. The Devil's Bargain is something that happens in the story no matter what, whether you succeed or fail. And I like to do an example here. So let's say Revel is trying to jump across a crevasse, and I say to Kevin, while Kevin's building the die pool, Devil's Bargain, no matter what, Revel's going to drop his weapon down into the crevasse. Now, if you accept that bargain and you succeed at the roll, it's because the weapon just slipped out of your belt or whatever and fell down there. If, however, you fail, it's because Revel also fell down the crevasse, right? So no matter what, the sword is going down into the crevasse. Now, Amanda, of course, is going to offer a much more interesting Devil's Bargain than that. Amanda will say, no matter what, the Witch of Navask is on the other side of the crevasse, right? That's huge, right? And what's really great about that is it implicates Revel's drive, right? And that segues nicely into the other thing I want to say, which is I'm going to be posing questions. You're going to be coming up with devil's bargains or otherwise filling in details for the story at different times. And you might get stuck on what to say. And I recommend always looking at your devil's bargains, or sorry, your drives or the drives of the other players, because the drives are what's going to be most relevant to the characters, and it's going to, well, drive the story as well. So just kind of keep that, keep drives as your touchstone for the storytelling here. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is set goals and hunt roll tokens. So the incursion is divided up into sets, and each set has a goal. Now, the set goals are mostly things that we're interested in doing in the story at a sort of player level, but it can also be things that the characters specifically want to do as well. Importantly, though, the set goals are something to aim for, and they can be accomplished in two different ways. The first way you can accomplish them is by just stumbling onto or otherwise uncovering or achieving whatever the set goal is while you're playing. The character finds the secret entrance to the subterranean portion or whatever, right? Alternatively, you can spend a currency in the game called the hunt roll tokens. You can spend 3 of them to automatically achieve your set goal. Now, why might you do that? Well, different reasons. You might want to short circuit this set for some reason. Maybe all the characters are at Ruin 5 and you need to hurry up and finish whatever you're doing and get the treasure so you can get out of there. That's a great reason to spend your tokens. Maybe the set goal involves getting past a really difficult monster and you don't like your chances going to the combat roll, and so you choose to spend tokens in order to bypass the monster, and then we just narrate what that looks like, right? So that's sort of why you might do that. That currency, the hunt roll token, has a second purpose, which is very important, which is it is one of the main ways you acquire treasure. Your characters must acquire treasure. You have a burden score, and if you don't meet your burden score in gold, in equal to gold and treasure, your character will have to retire at the end of this. They are fated to die destitute, and they will never be able to achieve their drive, right? So in order to keep the character in the story, you must achieve, you have to acquire enough treasure to equal your burdens. And so you can spend a hunt roll token to get a treasure worth at least 1 gold. Now, gold is that's an abstraction of like the value of things in the game. It's in the fiction, it's probably like, 50 or 60 silver or something like that. But we say 1 gold is the game value. And so that's another thing you can do with the tokens is you can be looking around and say, you know what, I want to find a treasure here and spend it. You get 1. So that's the other thing. Let's see if there's any other rules things I want to talk about. I think that's probably it for now. There's more to know, but we'll kind of figure it out as we go. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and introduce the incursion, and then we'll take a break. A heart hums in darkness. Many wonders lurk in the Kaldur forest, but few evoke such skin-crawling terror as the humming woods, an ominous bee-filled patch of wild ruled over by the 6-legged mother of millions. Efficient and brutal as any monarch, she rules over her buzzing, monstrous empire from the 6-form heart, a fortified and labyrinthine hive hidden in an enormous cluster of towering waxen peaks. Or at least she did. Some months back, mountains of black smoke drifted out of those dark woods, arcing towards the south. It's said that some brave or foolish souls must have successfully journeyed into the heart itself and set a fire that even thousands of chitinous bodies couldn't smother. A blackened, useless carpet of dead bees littered the charred woods as evidence. For a time, the woods were still. the near constant hum replaced with silence. Then, last month, refugees from the town of Wellslode began arriving at the gates of Fort Durin, with tales of bees invading their subterranean homes, swarming and stinging, driving every human out. The respite is over. The sixth form heart is reborn. The mother of millions has resumed her reign somewhere in the dim underground passages of this town, Wellslode. Something must be done. The fort's ability to sustain the local population is at its breaking point. Food and supplies are always tight, but now that the fort has had to accommodate refugees from Wellslode, tensions are high and locals are angry. Tents have sprung up in public common areas and in alleys that previously made for convenient shortcuts or intimate meeting spaces out of public sight. One can't walk from one's quarters to the public baths without threading through a maze of outstretched begging hands. Your party of treasure hunters have been hired by Sarn Ogled, first protector of the King's Guard in Fort Durin. Your mission? Do what you do best. Slip into hostile territory, take note of hazards and defenses, and report back. Not only will a handsome reward await you on your return, but you've been provided a written proclamation granting you right of salvage for any abandoned valuables you may come across in the fulfillment of your scouting duties. Ready yourself, traveler. Follow the hum into the darkness. The TLDR version, everybody ran out of Wellslode. They're now mucking up Fort Durin, and Fort Durin needs someone to go figure out what's going on in Wellslode and report back, and that's your job. So let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and we'll start. Our first set is called Who Goes There? The road out of town, meaning out of Wellslode, is littered with rotten food, trampled books, broken jewelry, all presumably dropped in better condition by villagers eager to escape. Wellslode is easy to see from afar because there are enormous bellows that push air into its subterranean depths that jut into the sky, opening and closing like the wet wings of a butterfly just out of its cocoon. So you have to imagine these large, towering bellows that just pump air underground. As you're approaching, the fields outside of Wellslode alternate between cultivated stretches of crops and intentional strips of wild plants that farmers left fallow to support local wildlife and pollination. The weather has been fair, and plants are in full flower. Birds flit here and there, fat from the bounty of insects. Earhoppers caper, and bees bumble from bloom to bloom. That interesting underground city of Wellslode. A question for everyone. When people talk about the citizens of the partially underground city of Wellslode, how do they describe their temperament? What unusual customs were practiced there before the bees arrived? And of course, you may have seen Wellslodians yourselves back in Fort Durin, the refugees. Whoever wants to answer first, go for it.
I think like the main breaking point in which like the Kingsguard it was like, okay, we gotta send people out of here is when the Wellslodians started to actually dig into Fort Durin, just so because they can survive above ground in tents and whatnot, but it's not comfortable for them. They have to be underground because their normal sleeping chambers are literally little cocoons of earth around them.
I was thinking further to that. It's known that the Wellslodians create little caches of their valuables inside their underground homes and then cover them up and sort of daub over the entrance. And so there's the rumor that all the valuables are in fact still there, hidden behind false walls in their living quarters.
before I relocated to Fort Durand, I'd heard stories of Wellslodians and how they are like little mole people, you know, real pale and not a lot of color to their skin or their hair. They always have dirt under their fingernails. And that isn't necessarily true, that I've learned since meeting people in Fort Durand, but they are really, really pale. They don't like the sunlight very much. They burn really easily. Um, as such, one of the things that has happened in Fort Durand since these refugees have arrived, the tents that they build cover whole swaths of alleyways so that they don't have to be in the sun at all, even during the day. They can kind of walk from tent to tent to tent, avoiding the sun with their cloaks and their umbrellas and tents.
I've heard that traders have a lot of difficulty trading with Wellslodians. They have a lot of trouble showing interest or appreciation for things. We know they keep valuables because of the stories of them burying them in the walls, but trying to drum up interest, a trader has a hard time being like, here's a bolt of silk, and they just kind of grunt at it. And so it's hard to figure out what they like, but they do trade for things.
I love it. Thank you all. I'm going to set the scene a little bit, and then I'll just turn it over to you all to role play. Two things on the way into Wellslode. Well, actually, let's get one thing out of the way right now. Your set goal. Your set goal is find an entrance into Wellslode's underground city spaces. You have easy access to the top side part, but the underground is maybe a little tougher. That's your first goal. As you're approaching town, you see two things. The first is what appears to be a small child's body, partially concealed under a bush, the legs and lower torso sticking out from under the bush. The second thing you see is an old person, slumped over, dead, leaning up against a tree, wrapped in what appears to be a very fine blanket and cradling something that you can't quite see in their hands. I'm just going to turn it over to all of you now, and I'll interrupt as needed. Role play.
I know it's not really part of our job, but it does feel a little weird just to leave these bodies lying around. Does anybody know how the Wellslodians like to dispose of their dead?
I think Obeha is just gives like a nonchalant shrug and just is keeping an eye out for, well, bees, because sometimes bees, they can be a little bit more carnivorous than some other insects. So why would the bodies still be out and open? Or haven't any other types of animals caught into them yet?
That's a really good point. I think I'm gonna go take a look at one of these bodies and see if we can figure out. I just assume they got trampled, but if we figure out how they died, because if it's some kind of, I don't know, thing going on with them that bees don't want them, well, that might be useful for us.
Are you going to check out the child or the old person?
Probably the old person. You said that blanket looks really nice, right?
Yeah, even from a distance, it looks like it's in good shape. Tell me how you are approaching the situation and then make a hunt roll.
Doing a quick scan for maybe looters or bandits or anything around that might be noticeable. I imagine if there was a giant swarm of bees, I'd be able to hear them.
Yeah,
So
probably.
just gonna
Okay,
walk right
so
up.
for the hunt roll, you get one die, a light die just for doing it, and you get another light die if you have a skill or piece of equipment that would be helpful.
I have skills in perception, plants, remedies, and injury. So I think if I'm looking at the body to determine how they
Yeah,
died, that might help.
that works. Yeah, I think, yeah, especially between perception and injury, you probably get that second light die. Go ahead and roll 2 dice.
This is for hunt, right?
Hunt, yes.
I rolled
You
2
got 2
threes.
3s. You encounter
start.
something terrible. It is a good start. You approach. It doesn't mean you don't learn what you're trying to learn, though. You approach this dead person, and as you get close to that fine blanket, which is woven through with lots of brilliant sort of jewel tone colors, the body goes and grabs your wrist. It is an old man. He is alive, obviously. And he says, please, food, water. Do you have something to share with an old man on the road?
I suppose. He's sitting against a tree, right?
He is indeed. Revel, you have surprise and defense as skills. Seeing what just happened, maybe from a distance, how can you tell this is a trap?
The tree, there's a tree line or some kind of cover that is just the right distance away from Sybil now, that she probably could not get away if it was an ambush. And the cover is just the right size, and it's actually, instead of it being a tree line, it's man-made. It's like almost would be a barricade, but it's maybe a couple little like boxes or things that have been clearly placed.
Let's say like
than...
a tarp, or like a
Mhm.
like you would sometimes people in the country put like foliage nets over their cars and stuff, like because they're like worried about black helicopters and stuff, crazy shit like that.
And if
It's
people
that kind of
were
thing.
running away, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't consciously put stuff over
Right.
over these things.
What do you do when you realize this is a trap?
I'm gonna run towards Sybil with my longsword out, shouting something along the lines of "Get back" or "Get away."
Let's do a risk roll.
Sure.
We'll keep it pretty simple for now. James, what could go wrong here?
I think that what could go wrong is that actually, moving the old man is what triggers whatever this is. So if the old man gets knocked over, the whole thing's going to go off, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. Devil's bargain. I'll offer it. No matter what, whether you get Sybil out of there or not, the group has to deal with whatever's under the tarp. You've got one. Let's talk about dice, though. Do you have a relevant skill here? I kind of went out of order, but it's okay. Well, defense and surprise. I think that's probably fine. You got one light die. Do you want to accept that devil's bargain?
I will accept that devil's bargain.
You've got 2 light dice. We'll stick with light for now. I don't think you are in danger yet, so go ahead and roll 2 light.
All right.
Good. 5. 5 light. You succeed, but there is a complication. The complication is the old man is going to wrap his arms around your legs, Revel, and prevent you from helping the group out with whatever's under the tarp. If you're okay with that, let it stand. Otherwise, you can add a dark die to go for a 6.
I will let that stand.
Okay. Let's go ahead and describe how you get Sybil out of trouble.
I was gonna just go for, I think I use my longsword, Revel uses longsword and chops the hand that's gripping Sybil off, but then his other arm is what grabs on, and he just has this unnatural strength. So it's trading positions in this case.
Sybil, what do you do with this? I mean, presumably you don't understand what's going on.
I think I yell out loudly in surprise, and probably gracefully stumble backwards. I say graceful, but it's not. It's a bad stumble. Kind of out of the way, just far enough away that I can't really easily help Revel.
Obeha, you see what appears to be a large, like, sort of shrubbery moving and indeed peeling back, revealing a large bear. This bear kind of rises up out of the shrubbery, and the old man, screaming in pain because his hand's been cut off, gripping Revel, says, "Avenge me, Bessie! Avenge me!" And his blood is spraying everywhere as he whips his stump around. And the bear, like, just sort of like rises up and lumbers forward. Revel, you're kind of like really vulnerable right now, but the rest of the group, you all can react. What do you do?
Apparently,
Go on, sorry. I was just going to say, I think Inda's been picking through piles of discarded goods and saying, "Ugly, ugly. Oh, that's pewter." And he looks up and says, "Oh, what have you done now?"
I think the bear is ready to combat if you all are.
Yeah.
It's a big bear, but it's not as big as a bear could be. And so it's an endurance 9. I think the way I'm going to do this is, Revel, you cannot participate in the first round of combat while you have this old man on you, but the others can. We'll have to. The bear kind of puts itself between you and the old man and the rest of the group. If you are participating in the combat, grab a weak roll to roll a weak and see what your weak point is.
I think I'd like to try and cast a ritual into combat before I start, if that's okay.
You absolutely can. Let's check on these weak points. Let's see. Sybil, you have a 4. Obeha, you have a 5. And what ritual are you going to go for here?
I'm going to use tripwire to create an illusion of like a deer that's going to run around and like lead the bear off in and elude them.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. I think mechanically it'll just reduce its endurance, but I like that. You have rituals as a skill, so you have your first light die. I think what could go wrong here is, well, I can't remember if like the rules say that you're supposed to define what goes wrong when you do rituals in combat. But I do think for the devil's bargain, I'm going to let Kevin make the devil's bargain.
No matter what, oh gosh. Let's see, is there a drive that I can pull on? not really. No matter what, I want to say just something else comes out of the woods. No matter what, the bear will then turn its attention to Inda.
Wait, so the army is to create illusory copies of yourself that mimic your actions. Mechanically, what this means is you have a chance of reducing the bear's endurance. And we're saying that no matter what, the bear is just really focused on Inda. Is that the idea here?
Sorry, I thought it was the illusion of the deer.
Yeah, I was using tripwire, which is I'm making
using
an
tripwire.
illusory
I have
deer,
army
yeah.
in my brain for some reason. Oh, okay, I see. Well, okay, so the predefined illusory scene of the deer. Yeah, that's what's going on. So what do we suppose the devil's bargain is then?
The devil's bargain is that the predefined illusion is the deer, but it's the deer runs in such a way that it runs past Inda. Thus, so the bear, whether it succeeds or fails, it's going to be coming for Inda.
Okay, I like it. Okay, if do you accept that, Inda?
I do, yeah. So that's a 2-1, right?
It's 2-1 because you have to do the dark die for the ritual. And there's a little table here of what actually happens when you roll. So go ahead.
Got a dark 6.
A dark 6. Okay, so a 6, you reduce the monster's endurance by 2, so it's now a 7. So that's a pretty good reduction. And yeah, that's great. It looks like your ruin goes up by 1 though. So maybe that's just because the bear takes a swipe at you on the way out. I think that's as it's running forward. I think that's probably what happens there. Let's go ahead and get that last weak point on the table. Actually, Inda, you don't even well, Inda, I'll let you, yeah, you can go ahead and roll the weak point to join the combat. Okay, you got a 1. All right. Now let's get some dice on the table. We've got 3, combat 3. Amanda, go ahead and roll it.
Combat 3?
Yep. 6, 2, and 1. We're looking for the 2 highest. So 6 and 2 is an 8. And did anyone's weak point get hit? It does not look like it. And so, or no, there's a 1. So Inda, you're taking a second hit, sadly. Bad start for Inda. But the bear is defeated.
I think I'll mark my many layers of clothing to avoid that one.
Let's get this started. Inda, go ahead and describe how the illusion begins the combat.
So I think Inda sort of starts to, daub markings on the ground and says, "Come on, you great brutes. You get away from them, get away." And starts waving her hands, and the deer starts running around. "No, not to me, not to me." And then, of course, chaos ensues that creates a welcome distraction for the other 3.
Yeah, Obeha and Sybil, you get to deal with the bear however you wish. Sybil, why don't you go ahead and kick off?
Well, I carry around a small hand sickle for, cutting branches off of trees and also cutting bears, hopefully. And I think once I regain my composure, I'm just gonna go dive in for that bear. Probably just kind of wildly slashing. I'm not really sure if I know what the weak points on a bear are.
Obeha, how do you finally dispatch the bear?
I start running towards the bear and I jump on its back. And my weapon is an ever-growing staff, and I'm trying to whack it, but it's not doing as effective as what I thought it was. But then I take it one final time, and the bottom of it grows into a point, and I just stab it through its neck.
The bear lets out a roar, kind of stumbles and wobbles around as it's getting ready to fall. Revel, the old man, who's clinging to you, holding you back with his one hand, you can kick him off pretty easily. He sees what happens to Bessie and he just like gets like glassy eyed, and he takes, with his one hand, he takes out of his shirt a glass jar with a single fist-sized bee in it. And he begins tearing at the lid with his teeth to try to get it open. The bee is very agitated. Revel, what do you do?
What are you doing, old man? Are you trying to get us all killed? Actually, probably.
He says, he says, he says, as many of you as I can.
Then we'll end him. Just longsword ungracefully, point first, towards the neck.
The little glass jar with the bee in it rolls out of his hand, kind of lands against your boot. What do you do?
Temporarily, at least, just go into a little bit of post-combat shock. While the others are dealing with the bear, and then when we kind of recover from the stillness, we'll pick up the jar and tighten the lid back on. Take a little bit closer look. Is there anything strange about the bee other than its size?
Make a hunt roll.
Sure. Just one light.
Unless you have a relevant skill. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. That's a 1.
There's a 1. The dice are very unkind today. You're looking at the bee.
I don't have any hunt tokens to lose.
Yeah, that's at least one good thing, I guess. You're looking at the bee, and let me take a look at your character really quick, because this will gauge the kind of information I give you right now. The bee settles down once it realizes it's not getting out of the jar. And it just like sort of settles, and it's just staring at you. And for a brief moment, a very, very brief moment, you can tell that the bee wants to talk to you. The bee wants to communicate with you. The bee wants to strike a deal. How do you know that? Just by glancing and focusing on the bee.
I don't know. It's just instinctual. Revel probably hasn't spent a whole lot of time around bees, but I think it pointedly looks at the old man. Or even takes one of it. Oh, it takes one. It's one of its little forelegs, and it just kind of like slowly draws it along the glass edge. Ah, good.
Do you keep the bee in the jar? Or do you just set it down and be done with it?
Oh, I can't make this kind of decision. I'll trust the others on this. I'll hold up the jar and look at the rest of the crew and go, it wants to talk.
I never met a bee that could talk before.
I've never met a bee this large before.
Hmm.
I don't think we're exactly dealing with the natural laws anymore.
Do you think
Well,
the bee
you-
knows how to get into the town?
What do you think, little bee? Do you know how to get in the town?
The bee just turns its body in the direction of the town.
Well, everything wants something, right? I mean, it doesn't want currency, but surely it wants something. Quid pro quo, you know. Bees must have some kind of trader principle. How could they be so organized and industrious otherwise?
Listen, the old man, he was trying to unscrew this thing, and he said he wanted to kill as many of us as possible. So if we let this thing out,
Sure, but if we let this thing out, maybe it owes us a little debt. You know? Maybe Anda's right. Maybe what it wants is to get out of this thing.
I don't like it, but we'll go ahead and open it.
Now, B, we're opening this, and you gotta show us how to get into the underground town, okay?
The bee flits off, buzzes off, flies away, leaving you with an open jar.
Should we follow it?
Obeha, will you roll a gold 7?
Yeah, I think that's what I was doing while everyone else was just like trying to deal with the bee.
2 gold.
Ooh.
That's actually a pretty good result on a 7 gold roll. You'll find treasures worth 2 gold. The first is that blanket. It is actually a very, very fine blanket. And it's more of a decorative piece, like a tapestry, than even a blanket. So someone can keep that. And then if somebody else wants to define what the second treasure is between the bear and the old man, then you can keep it.
Well, like the bear was small, but however, like it had pretty nice looking claws and whatnot. So
I'll even add one up on that. This bear was a trained bear, or sort of trained, semi-trained, badly trained bear, and it had gold little inlays on its claws as part of
Oh.
its fanciness.
That's interesting.
So maybe when during the big fight with the bear, maybe that we noticed them. I think if
whoever
anyone
wants
gets
to,
that, it might be
yeah,
Inda,
whoever wants
though.
to take the gold claws, they're worth 1 gold, and the blanket is worth 1 gold as well. So decide who's keeping what. While that's going on, Inda, I am curious how you fared in the fight. Like, what happened to you? What happens to the state of your stuff right now?
I think Inda wears a lot of layers of clothing. Like she looks quite sort of large, but actually it's because she wears lots of different types of clothing as a type of armor, and they're all shredded. And she's just sitting there, and, oh, it's ruined now. This is what happens when you offer to help people without collateral up front. Sybil, why did you do that?
It seemed like a good idea at the time. I mean, you were kind of in agreement.
Well, I think now we have to assume that the bee knows that we're gullible because we just let it out of the jar without asking for anything in return. So now all the bees know we're stupid. Great.
Okay, we might be stupider than bees, but at least we don't go back on agreements like that bee just did. Because we did have an agreement.
Did
Ended
you?
up.
Yeah, we let
Uh,
it out. It was going to show us how to get into the town.
well, the bee never really communicated that.
Well,
Never
then
said yes or no. So
I also remain skeptical. But we do know that if they could afford to gild their bears, then they must have disposable income.
well, no. I think this was just one of the people from the town having a pet bear rather than being a servant of the bees.
who keeps a pet bear? Weirdos. That's who.
Who's going to keep the gold claws?
I think like Obeha is gonna like hand the gold claws over to Inda because like Inda got hurt during the fights.
Think Inda will bite them with her, canine and say, well, we finally found something of some value in this damn trip, and put them away in a pocket.
Indeed. There's still the matter of the child body lying under the bush. That didn't appear to be part of the trap.
Mm-hmm.
I'd very hesitantly now go over to that body and poke at it with a stick.
Obeha's just gonna like put a hand on Sybil and just like maybe I should take a look first.
Okay, I'll hand you the stick.
Mm-hmm. I have a staff. So
Oh, you have the staff that can get long, yeah.
yeah, so like I technically already have a stick.
Go ahead and roll.
I take the stick back.
take a 2-die hunt roll.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can get above a 3.
Hey, a 6. There you go. Take a token, our first hunt roll token, and I will tell you that you poke it and you realize that it's not a body at all. It's actually a large stuffed doll that has a name stitched on the back. The name stitched on the back is Yulia.
Is a question. Is the doll made out of straw and burlap?
Let's see. Yes, it is. It is sodden and bug-eaten and smells of mold, but it is stuffed with straw and made with burlap.
Oh. And I'm going to perform a ritual, scarecrow, so that this doll can hunt down the mother of millions.
I think that'll be interesting to see how it goes. That might be an ongoing project. I don't know if you can do that like right here in this moment, but you can
That's
certainly
fine.
take the doll and be working on that.
The doll is mine. Yeah.
So what is everyone else doing at this point? I mean, the bee just flew off in the direction of the town, but it's unclear if it was trying to fulfill some sort of obligation to you or not. And you can hear the bellows in the distance. You can see them. There is a little bit of like surface town of Wellslode that's just up ahead. Yeah, Revel, what do you do?
We're gonna take a look around the trap area to see if there was anything else.
Yeah, make hunt roll.
A 2. We're getting better.
Still something terrible. Something that you will see. You noticed it first on the bear. The bear has patches of phosphorescent fungus on its snout, like it got into something. And you see patches of that phosphorescent fungus underneath the covering of the trap where the bear was hiding. What do you do?
Hey, Sybil, come over here. I need you to take a look at this. I can't recognize it. You're a plants person, right?
Finally, something I'm good at. I'm gonna
Uh,
look down this phosphorescent. So is it just like on the ground?
Yeah, it's just on the ground. And since you do have well, what skills do you have? You have plants. Okay. I will tell you that you've heard of this. You know what this is. This is lamplight fungus. The people of Wellslode, at some point in their history, decided that it was inconvenient to bring down flame-based light sources into the subterranean portions of their city. And so they harvest this particular fungus called lamplight fungus that is somehow used to light the way.
Huh. It's possible this bear was down underground too.
As I said before, I think it's one of the people of the town's pet bear.
Is the old man Wellslodian as described? Is he pale and?
I think it's hard to tell. I will tell you, though, that the answer to what happened to the bear becomes more apparent as you dig around. The bear got into a tin of lamplight fungus that actually bears a brand name, Lucky's Lamplight. There are 3 such tins and one that the bear managed to get into. And you can see those kind of tucked away with the small, meager belongings that the old man had.
I think Inda will say, well, since they're all in Fort Duran, this is now in short supply. So we have a supply side crisis. So let's take it. I know an alchemist who'll pay top coin.
I want to stick my finger in the open jar and give it a taste.
Yeah.
For botany reasons, not, for magic mushroom reasons.
Obeha, as soon as Sybil takes a taste of actually, no, roll. Make a hunt roll. Because you're asking a question about the world. You can use 2 dice, though.
Hey, I get a token.
Take your
On a
token.
6.
Obeha, Sybil takes a little taste of the lamplight fungus and very briefly, Sybil's eyes have an unusual sheen to them, but it goes away pretty quickly because she didn't take a very big taste.
I would recommend not putting things in your mouth that you don't know what they do when ingested.
Obeha, I understand that you are more cautious than I am, but I am the plant specialist here. And I know how to identify plants, and part of it includes eating them.
You realize that there's poisonous mushrooms and mushrooms that elicit all sorts of effects.
Yeah. Sadly, not this one.
Too small of a dose.
I'm just
Thankfully.
saying, if there's going to be opportunity to use poisonous mushrooms on people, maybe we'll want some poisonous mushrooms around. I don't know. I'm going to scoop up any jars that Inda hasn't already taken.
Yeah, there are 3 unopened tins of Lucky's Lamplight. Who's taking what?
I'll take one and say, yes, yes, you stay with me, my pretty. I know a good buyer for you, and put it away in a pocket.
I'll take the open one that the bear got into.
Sure.
I'll take the third.
There's actually one unopened tin. Okay, how do you want it?
Yeah, I'll take it. You have noticed that I've, out of the blanket that I picked up, I've made almost like a swaddling backpack for Yulia, so she's coming along with.
Oh, Yulia. Unless she was already a scarecrow and Yulia is the person she's supposed to be killing. You never know.
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. Good. Okay, so I think that this is you've pretty well tapped out this situation. There's not too much more to do here.
Let's follow
Proceeding
that
forth.
bee.
Yeah. You get into the actual town proper. And it's not a very big space above ground. It's mostly just like, it's essentially just like a couple of like, it's just like a little narrow street of shops and trading posts. It's kind of the Wellslodians' way of interacting with the outside world whenever they had to do that. So there's not too much here. The actual Wellslode proper is down below, right? You're trying to find an entrance down below. As you approach the town, the sound of the bellows becomes much more prominent, and it's this constant like like in the air, right? You can always hear it. It drones. It almost like lulls you in a way because it's such a constant noise. Two things that stand out as you approach this little drag of topside town. There is a cheesemonger's shop, and the windows of the store have been packed with dirt from the inside, and the windows are actually busted out and overflowing and forming a slope of dirt falling into the street. And the doorway of the shop has a smooth wax plug over it to prevent entry. And there's actually like a small group of people. You haven't seen people in a while except for the treacherous old man. But before that, it's been a while. But you actually see people, pale-skinned, like the Wellslodians, dressed with sort of militia regalia, and they are kind of tapping around this wax-sealed door of the cheese shop, like they're trying to figure out how to get in. They're kind of like scraping at it and tapping at it. And I think there's like, say, 4 of them in total. And a little ways down the way, there is a wagon on its side with one wheel shattered and an incredible amount of old dried blood around it. This is in addition to all just the sort of discarded junk that the Wellslodians dropped on their way out.
I am going to take a quick glance back from the road we came in on to make sure my goat is following us at a safe distance, because I do have a goat.
You have a goat. What's the goat's name?
Gerald.
Gerald the goat. Okay, very good. Okay, we'll assume Gerald's okay.
Yeah. He knows
very
to
good.
follow at a safe distance.
Inda, what are you doing?
I think Inda's going to go up to the wax plug and the people trying to get in and sort of engage them in conversation and start asking large amounts of questions and just, sort of bombarding them with like patter, basically, to try and find out what they're doing.
Well, so what do you say?
You there, gentlemen. You look like you might be in need of a pickaxe. I have that and many more within my pack. Um, you can't get by without my wares. I'm a purveyor of renown, and then start saying, this reminds me of a story about when I was, and just starts like this endless monologue to try and like get them to, sort of, yeah, do what I want, basically.
These three individuals, they sort of stop and they're looking at you as you, or four individuals, they're looking at you as you give your little sales pitch here. And one of them says, a pickaxe?
Yes, sir, a pickaxe and many more things besides. I have incendiary compounds that can be used to destroy the wax, perhaps even a hot flame to melt it. Your options are endless with ingenuity and coin.
They look at each other. A hot flame to melt it.
Yes, wax melts flame. I have many things that can cause a conflagration that will melt this plug in no time. Well, my name isn't Inda.
Conflagration.
Yes, sir. It's a fancy word for fire.
Fire. This breaks out among them. Fire. Fire.
Not sure I care for the way you're saying fire, friend.
Revel and Obeha, what are the two of you doing?
Like, this conversation is really odd, even among the people. Like, imagine like we've seen the people at Fort Durran, so we've seen some of their behavior. Then this is just a little bit strange. Like, is there any marks on them? Do the eyes look strange? Like, are they?
Make a hunt roll.
Because I know I've dealt with undead before, and I'm wondering if that may be the case here. I don't think really any of my skills apply unless I get up and close and personal with them.
Yeah, probably. So just do one die for now.
Mhm.
5. Take your token. As one of them is speaking, you see a very distinct dribble of wax running down one corner of their mouth. Pickaxe. Fire.
And I think we should maybe take a step back. I don't think we can converse with them.
Step back. Converse.
I think Inda's slowly walking backwards and saying, I see that your needs are not in the pickaxe or fire department. I think you may need something else, such as these soothing herbs. I have some numbing herbs. So I might say, perhaps if you should take this as a tisane or some kind of chewing compound, it could ease whatever ails you, friend.
Whatever ails you. And Revel, what are you doing?
I want to go look for that bee. On the meager hope that it would actually provide assistance. But I also kind of want to know if there was a battle or something, a siege from the inside. Did people board up their doors the way that you might if the town was in danger?
Yeah,
or if people just packed, ran suddenly.
Make a 2-die hunt roll. Because of defenses. Got a 2. You encounter something terrible. Revel, you round the corner. away from the rest of the group. And there's another one of these militia people, but they're turned away from you and they're moving their hands over their face. And you can hear and when it looks up, it's got your face. And we cut away from there. Meanwhile, Obeha, Inda, Sybil, the three militiamen, they are dressed in the colors of Wellslodian militia. You've seen them in Fort Durin. I think one of them even has a banner that they have like propped up against the cheese shop. What is the banner of Wellslode? What's on their banner?
The colors are gray, darker gray, and even more dark gray.
Shades. You know, they do what they know. What symbols are on the banner?
I feel like there's a kind of stylized shape that looks like a kind of chamber underground that's sort of more like a vessel, but it actually kind of is a underground cavern.
So the three militiamen, or the four militiamen, no, three, there was a fourth.
Oh no.
They lean back and consider you. And one of them looks really directly at Enda and beckons you, points toward an alleyway. Pickaxe, fire, and is like beckoning you to go into the alleyway with him.
I make it a point to conduct my business in the open, you see, honest and transparent, if you understand. And she's sort of backing towards, Obeha, and everyone else is just saying, I think we need to run.
Well, we need to figure out what they're trying to do here first. What if the entrance to the underground, what if there's an opening in there? That's why there's so much dirt.
Is there any objects nearby?
What'd you have in mind? There's all kinds of detritus laying around.
Just something that I can throw at them.
Sure, you can probably find like a just like some kind of discarded piece of junk, rock or
Okay.
something.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting use of one of my rituals. Ward stays concentrating to protect the small area. And in the past, sometimes it has worked where no one can pass through a barrier. So if I put it like this ritual on the rock, throw it at them, cast the ritual, it will contain them in a bubble.
Oh, I see. Like kind of hold them in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Let's have a risk roll. What could go wrong here, group? Everyone gets to speak except Chaotic.
The bubble works, but it accidentally encases Obeha in it as well.
I think you accidentally encase your group instead of them.
The ritual takes hold at a specific moment where the rock is in the air, and rather than following the rock, it just locks the group in place.
It creates a vacuum and the earth starts pouring out of the shop windows and creates a sort of scree slide.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, let's talk dice. Do you have a skill that would be helpful here, Obeha? Oh, you have rituals, so that'll do.
Rituals and using the environments.
Right, exactly. Love that. And Devil's Bargains. Everyone can make an offer here.
I think mine is no matter what, the effect of the magic heats up the air and the wax all starts to melt. So this is on a bit of a similar theme, but like slightly less catastrophic. But the wax plug starts to slowly melt and spread across the ground.
I'm going to say no matter what. No matter what, Yulia appears.
I really can't beat that one.
No, that's so good. I don't have anything else to offer.
Jason, you know I love spooky things. No matter what, Yulia appears.
Yeah, it's good. You have 2 light dice. You have to do dark die because of the ritual. Go ahead and roll. Let's see what you get. And I'm going to cut over and check in with Revel. 6 light. There you go. It's going to work. You will be able to trap the 3 militiamen. Let's check in with Revel, though. Revel, this person has your face. What do you do?
First instinct is to turn around and run and rejoin the others, but I'm gonna belay that, and I'm gonna ask it, hey, have we met before?
Met before? We met before. Hey, have we met before?
Yeah, just up the road.
Just up the road. Yeah, just up the road.
No, we haven't met before.
Met before. At this point, it gets a little smile. And as it smiles, its lips split and crack, and little dribbles of wax dribble down. We met before. And it leaps and grabs you.
Oh.
And it's trying to wrap its hands around your throat. You're in a combat with it right now. Make a weak point roll.
Weak point is 3.
Weak point is 3. Go ahead. And it is a 6. So you can beat it in 1 round if you roll a 6 on your 1 die.
It's just 1 dark die for the combat, or
To start, yeah. You're just, yeah. 2, that is not enough, but it did not hit your weak point. While, just give me the sort of like initial struggle, and no one else is aware of this because you're like down around the corner. But just kind of, what does this look like in the beginning as you're sort of like at a stalemate here?
So it gets its hands on my throat, and both of us pushes me back into like the side of whatever building is right there. And so the first thing we have to do is break its grip. So we go to draw our sword, but in such a way that we draw it pommel into the the thing's gut, just to try and get a little bit of space. And then try and break its grip off of our neck with our other hand.
That's not working, but you're just having this tussle, and then it kind of rolls its eyes into the back of its skull, just leaving white waxen pupils, and it says, "The Makers." And you start to see bees. Bees are starting to crawl out of crevices. They are starting to swarm around, all different sizes, fist-sized ones, regular-sized ones, and they're just buzzing all around. They are trying to sting at you. You're having to, like, shake them off in addition to dealing with this creature. This is one of its special moves. Its endurance is now an 8 instead of a 6. Go ahead and make the second roll. You have 2 dice now. Five and 3, that's enough. Describe how you defeat. But the 3, though, that does hit your weak point.
Yep.
The hit comes from one of the bees, gets on you, and stings the shit out of you. And you take a condition from it. But go ahead and describe how you defeat this thing.
So we're backed in a corner. We're up against the wall. Its arms are on my neck, or hands are on my neck. We actually sink down to our knees as it gets above us and starts to overpower. And we do actually finally get enough of an angle, but instead of taking the pommel into the gut, we go up into its chin. And that gives us enough clearance to fully unsheath our sword, do sort of like Arthur He-Man sword blade goes right up in that little gap between us, and it goes down into the shoulder clavicle. And when we finally get enough strength, we were able to get back on our feet, kick the body off, and that's when we're getting stung all over the place. And then we got to start hoofing it back to the rest of the group.
You have a condition from the bee stings. The condition is called stung. It's just stung is the condition. But you start to have a reaction almost immediately. Your nose and your mouth floods with a bloody, phlegmy discharge, and your eyes start to swell shut. The venom works really quickly, and it's nasty. It's actually kind of funny because as your face puffs up from the venom, the wax creature's face is sort of puffing up and crumbling apart. You still sort of look like each other as it sloughs down into a pool at your feet. Going back with the rest of the group. Abeha, go ahead and describe how you trap the 3 militiamen.
As I think it's pretty obvious at this point that they're not real people, but instead waxy constructs. So as I throw the rock, it hits them in the head and it sort of just sinks in a little bit. And then, so this sort of bubble forms around them. And as like they're moving about and like putting their hands, it's just like the wax, as they push it, just like moves in weird places and it looks disjointed, but they can't get out.
You hear the cry of a little girl behind you. My baby!
Oh.
Let's take a 5-minute break. A quick bit of housekeeping before we resume. Revel, you can grab some kind of treasure from the thing as you're running away. Go ahead and roll 8 gold. Or gold 8.
Gold 8.
The gold dice are being very kind today. 2 gold. You'll grab something of, I think like as it falls apart. As it falls apart, it actually does have, well, let me just look at the list here. I have like stuff here. Just give you one of these things. It actually has it has 2 things. One, it has a helmet. It's dented, but it has a very intricate tortoise shell design and is worth 1 gold. Additionally, there is a spade with a silver sovereign embedded in the handle. It looks like the creature was about to jam the spade in you if throttling you didn't work. But the spade is interesting because this is a sort of, it's almost like a ceremonial kind of spade. It can be used as a spade, but this is a typical of the type of thing that would be given by a ditch digger to Saint Delphine, the patron saint of such people. And so this is what you have here. Worth 1 gold as well.
I love both of those things.
Yes, you can grab those as you're running back to the group.
Fantastic.
Speaking of the group, my baby. Inda, there is a, Obey has distracted, but Inda, you see a little girl running up, and she's pointing at the doll that Obey has made a little makeshift baby Bjorn out of the blanket, out of hanging out in there. What do you do, Inda? The little girl is very surprisingly, I would say, in surprisingly good shape considering this sort of dire state of Wellslode. She herself almost looks like a doll. Her smooth porcelain skin, and which is mostly unblemished, and wearing a simple but well-made dress. Inda, what do you do?
I think Inda has finished just looking at the melted, or like the soldiers trapped in the bubble, and said, "Should have taken the pickaxe," and just sparks with laughter and says, "I like you, Obeha. You know how to do things from a distance," and turns around and looks at the girl and says, "Well, given our track record so far, little girl, I'm not inclined to, is that your dolly? And do you need the dolly? Are you in fact a bee? What's the situation here, child?"
My name's Yulia. What's your name?
"That's great. My name's Inda. I've got lots of stories from faraway lands. Would you like to hear one?"
Inda?
"Oh no, not this again. Are you going to repeat everything I say back to me in increasingly unsettling tones?"
She just kind of giggles and says, "My mommy and daddy, they left me behind." She then looks at you, Sybil. My name's Yulia. What's your name?
You're just out here by yourself, kid?
My mommy and daddy, they left me behind.
On purpose?
They were running from the bees.
And you just saw your whole town running away and you didn't join them?
I had to find my baby. And then she looks at the doll again.
Not a lot of self-preservation for this one, eh?
Revel, you can come running around the corner at this point, all swelling and phlegmy and coughing and in bad state.
What happened to you? What is happening?
Oh, the bees, they're like possessing the people. I got attacked, I got stung. We need to either get out or go deeper, one of the two.
As this child is sort of like asking for the doll, I will take the doll out of baby Bjorn, take a look at it, then take a look at the child.
They do look vaguely similar. The child has like, or the doll has like hair made of like brown yarn, and Yulia has brown hair. That's it's possible that whoever made this doll kind of made it to be the little girl, right? You know, that kind of thing.
Okay. And
my baby.
And I will hand over the doll, and as I do, I'm going to just take a closer look at this kid. Because like, has the kid been hurt in any way?
Make a hunt roll.
Or is this kid another waxy figurine and the doll was just an earlier incantation of it?
Make a hunt roll.
Since I'm getting up close, could I use illusions? Because constructs looking like people.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You encounter something terrible. She takes the doll and she's like, my baby. And she begins like chewing on its face. Meanwhile, Revel and Sybil and Inda.
I think Inda will be like, I knew this was going to happen. Well, there's a very interesting alley that way. I'm going that way. Let's run. Please, let's run.
If I look around, I mean, we're in a weird spot, but are there any plants or such things around that I might recognize as having like antihistamine properties?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to say no. I'm not going to give you a roll, but I will say this. There is an apothecary in this little town square, this little trading post.
Okay.
And it is not sealed up with dirt and wax.
Okay. I'm going to run towards the apothecary, see if the door's open.
What's everyone else doing right now? Abeha, what are you doing apart from watching Yulia chew on her doll's face?
Why do you do that? Chew on your doll?
And she sets it, she kind of like moves it away from her face a little bit. And she's looking at you. And she begins to like stroke its face.
Oh.
Baby.
Oh, this is going to be an interesting time. This hasn't come up yet, but Abeha wears a mask like at all times. Like you have not seen Abeha's face whatsoever. So this interaction's very interesting. Huh. You aren't like as aggressive as the rest.
Aggressive?
Sometimes people can be mean, but you're very nice.
My name's Yulia. What's your name?
My name's Abeha. Why don't you come and follow me?
My
And
mommy and daddy, they left. They were running from the bees.
I'm going to take this little mannequin along with us. I hold out my hand.
She takes your hand. And Revel, Inda, what are you doing in the meantime?
Lingand is going to go to the apothecary too and say, well, I'm very good at improvising things out of random medical items, so I'm sure we can find something here for that hideous puffy face.
Revel is going to see Indigo with Sybil and stay with Obeha, but this is clearly her line of expertise. Revels is hitting things with metal objects. So we're going to step back and just kind of play Overwatch here, and if anything happens, jump in to save the day, but otherwise let Obeha interact with Creepy Child.
Yulia looks at you if you're there. My name's Yulia. What's your name?
It's... Oh, man, why are we... It's Revel. My name's Revel.
What happened to your face?
What did... people were unkind to it.
People were unkind?
Yeah, like the nice lady here was saying, not everybody is kind like you are.
My mommy and daddy, they left
Yeah.
here.
They ran from the bees. Got that. Yeah, the bees, I understand why they ran. Bees not nice.
She's stroking the doll. And she's like talking to the doll. Why are you putting your hands around my neck?
Oh, this is very interesting. As I'm just continuing investigating this little girl. Like, as she's stroking, I'm looking for any marks of handiwork, of like any symbols and sort of rituals
I
typically
don't think there's
associated.
anything else to find.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, in the apothecary,
Okay.
the apothecary shop is, at a glance, mostly cleared out. People probably grabbed whatever they could grab for the road and then got on the road. Nevertheless, Sybil, what do you do?
I'm going to take a look around and see if there's any sort of remedy for whatever happened to Rebel's face.
Go ahead and make a hunt roll.
I think I can add a light die because I do have skills and remedies.
Yeah, go for it.
Yay.
Did you get a 6?
Token for my
Mhm.
6.
Take your token. You do find it's close enough. It's maybe not quite exactly what you're looking for, but you do find 3 vials of, they're labeled, and you can confirm by smelling them if you open them. 3 vials of Fender's Eye. I'll type that for you. Fender's Eye is a painkiller.
Is this a topical painkiller or?
It is. I hadn't really thought about it. We'll say topical. Sure, it's like an anti-inflammatory, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So it'll work to some degree.
This will do in a pinch. Be nice if we had some way of. Well, I don't know. I tell you, Inda, if those bees come after us like they came after Revel, Wouldn't mind something a little stronger than this. Maybe between you and I, we can come up with something. Mix some
Hey,
of this stuff.
I may not have been lying to those wax things when I said I had some other remedies, but that's just between you and me. But we need to find where they keep the good stuff. I might have a few ideas about where to look. I want to find where the storekeeper probably stashed all of their favorite, all the valuable stuff.
Yeah, how are you searching?
I'm going to use my improvisation and my trading to understand where greedy
Oh,
merchants hide
yeah,
all their
the
stuff.
lock boxes and stuff. Yeah, it's good. I like that. Go ahead and roll 2 dice.
All right, let's do it. What am I doing? So we're doing hunt, aren't we? Yeah. 2 5s.
You're not finding anything straight away. You do get a token, and you encounter something terrible. I think the thing you encounter. Let me take a look at my stuff here. You do find what is a trapdoor in the floor underneath a rug. Classic move, right? And the trapdoor is locked from the outside with a chain and lock. And there's definitely something moving around down below wherever this trapdoor leads. You hear scratching and footsteps. What do you do?
Oh, great. More bees. I would very much like to not open this trapdoor. The bees already know we're stupid. This will confirm that we're stupid.
What if
so
it's not bees, though? What if there's an entrance? What if this shop has an entrance to the underground place and we can avoid all that other bee stuff out there and just go down through here?
Now, Sybil, what have we learned, girl? Everything is bees. The people are bees. The bees are bees. It's all bees, except for that bear.
Well, not everything can be bees. The bees moved in. There was a whole town here before there was bees. They had to have ways in and out of their actual town.
I'm afraid in this case, I think it's going to be bees, but I hope you're right. I hope you're right, but let's assume it's bees and then move from there.
And the way we go about getting the information we need to get, which we were tasked with, which means if we don't do it, we don't get money. We don't get paid. And I need to get paid. The way we need to get this done is by being brave, you know, looking into the places where there might be bees or there might not be.
This is actually
Like
a good time
trapdoors.
to clarify something in the setup, I think. Or expand upon it, I should say. So you were your payment is coming in the form of somebody in Fort Durin, this guy from the King's Guard in Fort Durin is going to pay you for your report. So as long as you make it back to Fort Durin with an adequate report of what's going on in Wellslode, you will each get the equivalent of 1 gold in treasure. So you have that to look forward to as long as you make a good report. In other words, you see enough of what's going on. They'll know if you're lying or not. And otherwise, you're here to, you have a charter that lets you scavenge and keep whatever you scavenge. So,
Well, I didn't get to this age by being overly bold. It's fair to say I'm something of an opportunist. You may have noticed, but this is very exciting, isn't it? Maybe we should open the trapdoor. Maybe you should open the trapdoor.
At this point,
yeah, I want to put my ear down to the trapdoor and then knock on it.
As soon as you put your ear to the trapdoor, you hear immediately on the other side of it.
I didn't hear what you said, if you said anything.
It was just breathing.
Oh.
That's worse
Wax
than
people
bees.
don't breathe.
That's worse than bees. That's actually worse than bees.
What if there's someone down there who needs rescuing and has a lot of money?
You know how greedy I am. Why do you appeal
Yinda,
to my sense of benefit?
worst thing that
Rescuing.
happens, we open this up and it sucks down there,
The
and then we
voice.
just close it back up.
The voice says, rescuing. Money.
It's another one of those wax people.
Yeah, then we just lock it back up. But if it isn't,
Pickaxe, fire.
do you have a pickaxe? You can just pickaxe the lock right off.
I don't lie about my stock. And she pulls a pickaxe out of the sack. Of course I have a pickaxe. That would be false advertising. I mean, caveat emptor and all that, but yes, I have the pickaxe.
Then, get to work. Do it. Do it. Show me what you got.
Don't make me regret this, Sybil. I'll knock the padlock off and then back off.
Meanwhile, back out in the square. So I don't think there's anything else to really learn about Yulia, at least visually. She's still kind of like, gazing at the doll. And she occasionally brings the doll close and she whispers something to it.
Okay. I think I'm just gonna pick up Yulia.
You can. And she smiles as you pick her up, and she says, as she's smiling, "Stop, you're hurting me."
Oh, jeez. Poor little mannequin. You never asked for this in life. Wish I knew more to give you your freedom. You don't deserve this.
And what do you do?
I think it probably doesn't work because Yulia is a wax mannequin and I only know Scarecrow, and that really doesn't give sentience or anything. But I think I just draw the symbols into her hands to just maybe just on a random chance of just it binds her more together to herself. But honestly, if nothing happens because of it, I'm fine with that.
What are you hoping to accomplish?
To disconnect Yulia from the bees. So because it's implied that Yulia has killed before, and that's why she's heard these things.
I think holding Yulia, and because you have the Scarecrow ritual, which is the Scarecrow ritual is just a rudimentary form of mannequin creating, you'll realize that these wax mannequins are also a rudimentary attempt at making mannequins. It's the bees' attempt at making such a thing. They don't have all the right magic and all the right capability. And so they're not like the sorts of mannequins you might find out, the more sophisticated ones that you perhaps have met in your life. The magic to undo Yulia would be fairly simple it'd be fairly simple to undo the magic that holds her together.
Then I will do that instead.
She begins to break apart immediately, melting in your arms. And as she's melting, as her eyes are being sealed up, as the wax is dribbling down, she's smiling and she says, "Will you be my friend?" "My mommy and daddy, they left here. They're running from the bees." My name's Yulia. What's yours?
God damn, Jason.
Jesus. So she was never real.
No, I don't think anyone here is fully aware of themselves. In
I-
Bees are very, very smart, but they don't have all the pieces together.
What remains of Yulia is gathered at your feet in a waxy puddle.
Mhm.
There's also the dress that she was wearing, and of course, the doll.
I will put the doll down.
There's nothing else to find in the apothecary shop. Oh no, you opened up the trap door, didn't you?
Oh, no more wax Americans.
There is a young man looking up at you. He says, oh, oh, oh. And he thrusts his hand out and tries to grab at your hand. And he's trying to like,
Whoa, whoa, slow it down, kid.
This
First
is-
things first. Are you a bee?
no, I'm not a bee. Do I look like a bee?
Fair.
I think he passes the not a bee test because all they did was repeat things back to us. What are you doing down there, boy?
The more important question is, are you made of wax? And he like is trying to like touch you to see if your skin is pliable.
Do you have any sense, boy? We wouldn't be talking like this. They're not very good at that.
Well, and I wouldn't be talking like this. So it's settled. We're not wax mannequins and we're not bees.
That's good because I just said to my friend here, everything is bees, but I'm very pleased that it's not all bees. What are you doing here and what do you want?
I was trapped here. I was being, well, I was perhaps committing some light theft
As
when
one
all
does.
of the troubles broke out, and the shopkeep kept me here until the authorities could do something with me. But then everyone just, well, first there was the humming, and then screaming, and then the running, and nobody came to get me.
Well, I think we can help you for a certain price. So you have stolen goods, and we have a way of getting you out of the hole. So
Of
how
course, I
about
don't
we
have any
trade?
stolen goods. They caught me and put me in the hole. Do you think they just let me keep the stolen goods?
That's what someone hiding stolen goods would say. So how about you stay in that hole until you've decided whether or not you're holding stolen goods, young man? Think about what you've done.
He says, you can't really keep me in the hole.
Or,
I'm fairly certain I can overpower both of you.
says a person who's been in a hole for how long? When was the last time you've eaten, kid?
Make a hunt roll.
I don't think I have anything useful to add.
I can use improvisation. So I can try and basically convince him to do what we want. That if he gives up whatever he's stolen, then we'll let him out of the hole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's like necessarily objecting to that. I am curious about this question Sybil posed, though.
Okay.
What'd you
I
get
do
on
have
dice?
perception as a skill, so maybe
I'll
I'm
take that,
perceiving
yeah.
he does look weaker than he is saying.
Yeah, you can take 2 dice. You got a 5. Take your token. He looks remarkably healthy, actually.
When was the last time you've eaten, kid? How long you been down there?
He says, well, I sort of lucked out. The shopkeeper had a number of dry rations and foodstuffs down here, and I don't think he thought I was going to be down here long. And so I've managed to keep myself fairly healthy, though I could certainly use a drink of water if you have it. I'm a bit tired of drinking wine.
There's wine down there.
There was.
Hmm.
I'm going to dose some water with numbing herbs, and I'm going to give it to him to drug him so that we can pull him out of the hole. Because I think this bullshit.
He's definitely eaten a person while he was down there.
Revel, what are you doing right now?
We've concluded the business. Yulia's gone. So I think we're gonna go join the others at the apothecary. So we might just be walking in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could be doing that. Inda, you can give the numbing herbs water to the young man. He's like, thank you. That's very nice. Very good. Very cool and refreshing, actually. Splendid. And he hands it back up. Well, are you going to let me out of this hole or not?
How are you feeling? Maybe you should drink some more water. Get your strength back.
It says, well, I had my fill, but certainly I didn't want to be greedy. And he takes it and he'll have another swig.
It's not greed when it's all about your health and wellness, kid.
Yes.
We're just looking out for you.
That's why I chose to steal from the apothecary. That was my logic, really. He's like, well, I'm going to come up now. I don't want to. Clearly, there's more of you now. I can see. I know when I'm outnumbered. I have nothing to. I have nothing to. I have no threat to pose, and you're happy to come down here and take a look at what was down here. I'm coming up now.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to come up. Into the herbs seem to be having no effect whatsoever.
I think I'll look to the others and I'll point silently and be like,
Kill him? That's what you want? You want us to kill him?
no, I think the implication is like, no. This is not good.
On the walk to the apothecary, I do want to ask Obeha, do you ever thought about being a parent?
Oh, that's a question to have. Oh,
I don't know about you, but what just happened back there, I thought about it, but this clearly isn't the life for, that kind of choice. But you seem to have a rapport with a kid. I've never been good with kids myself.
I suppose in a way, I could always become a parent. People like me can get pretty creative about how to bring life into the world. And honestly, the more formed the life is, the more sympathy you have for it. That's why people have sympathy for children more than they have sympathy for animals or pets.
It's like if you asked a computer to describe motherhood.
Do you want me to show you.
How you make life? That's an awful forward proposition. I think you might want to buy me a drink first, but I'm sorry.
I'm going to pull out a knife.
No, whoa. Hey, that's not really necessary, is it?
Well, I'm not gonna hurt you. It's just that this is the fastest way to explain it, because otherwise it will get very confusing for you. And I'm going to cut my palm, and instead of it being blood, there's tadpoles coming out of it.
Wow. Okay. If that was to not confuse me, I would hate to see the confusing version. So I'm gonna accept that there's a war between the bees and the tadpoles going on here. And just tell me where to swing my sword. That's all I ask.
Bees v frogs.
And then I think by then we'll have gotten
Arrived
to
at the
door.
apothecary, yeah. And at this point, you'll kind of, that's when the guy in the hole will say, "Oh, I see you have friends," and and he comes up and he hands you your water skin back, Inda, and says, "You're very generous with your water. Thank you."
Well, it's proved something that I've always thought, something that I've suspected all along. A little bit of charity goes a long way.
Yes, I think that's probably right. Well, I
can't imagine you want to go out there by yourself, considering all the bees and whatnot.
Oh, yes, the bees. The bees. People were running from the bees. I heard them. I never saw them. He says, by the way, my name's Yulia. What's your name?
Oh, fuck.
Sword is out now.
We'll end right
I
there.
knew it.
Let's go to stars and wishes.
Oh my goodness.
Stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed from the session. Wishes are things that you hope happen in the story next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I gotta give Jason a star for just his creepy voices. Just the melting of Yulia, that was just amazing. I gotta give a star for everyone just like going out and just poking random stuff and then getting into trouble, literally poking the bear, as it were. Revel, I gotta give a star for that conversation with Abeja, because in my first trophy gold incursion with Abeja about like 6 months ago, that particular idea of parenthood came up prominently in the incursion of Hester's Mill, so that's just an amazing callback, even though it's like completely accidental. And Inda, I just love how you talk to people and just are like, "Hey, do you want to buy something from me?" And it's just very fun.
Yes, my stars are very similar. Kevin, that conversation about being a parent, it was so out of left field for me. I had no idea why that was happening, and I loved it. It was so good, and so weirdly appropriate and also creepy. So yeah, thank you for that. That was wonderful. Jason, we've already talked about your fun voices. I really liked when you were having the mannequin mimic Revel, and you did a really good job with that, mimicking that it was like it sounded like Revel. So that was really, really cool. Good job on that. Of course, Inda is just wonderful. I feel like we need to not have Inda and Sybil together because that's going to be the chaos duo causing all the problems. But I love problems, so I'm here for that. I really like this. I like that Obeha is this character that you've played before, Chaotic, because you're bringing in a little bit of a history with them. And even though I don't know the history, it does feel like a nice sort of fully formed character that doesn't happen a lot in like a first game of a trophy game. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. Yeah, so stars all around. Wishes. I mean, I don't know. I just want to see what happens. This is bonkers.
Yeah, stars for me. I had a really good time. I mean, it's fun to see. It's fun to see. It's always fun to me to see players like settle into their characters, you know, especially like brand new characters. I mean, that wasn't really the case with Obeha so much, but everybody else, there's this like settling in process, which is fun to watch. Like as you start to see, like I can see the players sort of like poking and prodding different aspects of their character to see like what works, to see what they want to go with, to see how they want to kind of like, you know, play with it. And I love that. To me, that's like the beauty of a role-playing game. Like I love that. Like there's something to be said about like, okay, coming to the table with a fully formed idea of what your character is and then like role-playing that, and that's fine. But there's something equally enjoyable about like just having a brand new character and testing the boundaries of that character and seeing what you want to do with it, figuring out your vibe with the group and kind of how you want to play it. And so my associated wish is I'll be very happy to see how the second session goes once everybody has like really settled into their characterization and how they want to go with it. I really love the conversation between Revel and Obeha. That's the kind of thing that's the kind of thing I show up for. Like yes, it's, you know, the fighting monsters and all that is really good, but I like there's something about just a sort of out of left field like question between characters that like really create some interesting things. And it was, for me personally, it was rich with dramatic irony because I know Obeha's backstory. Like I know that Obeha has tadpoles in her body, right? Like I know that. And so it was really funny, like that question being posed, especially given like the horror of what just transpired. It all just sort of like came together in a really great ironic way that I really, really appreciated. I personally had a lot of fun playing the mannequins. When I was reading this incursion, or when we were originally developing it, and then I was reading it today to prepare, I wasn't sure how the mannequins was going to go. Like I know like what my capabilities are as a GM, and I know what I'm good at, and so I felt reasonably confident that it would be pretty good. But nevertheless, you can never quite be 100% certain like whether you can really like deliver the creep factor on something that the players sort of out of character understand what's happening, right? Like once you figure out their mannequins, like how much more creepiness and scariness like can you really introduce, right? And I feel like I did a pretty good job based off of your facial reactions, at least, so I'm happy about that. I like the way you are doing Inda right now, James. I can tell you're settling into it a bit, that I'm enjoying it so far. This kind of like sort of like insufferable curmudgeonly old woman capitalist. Like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of it's an interesting character. I don't think I've ever had a character quite like this in a group, so it's pretty fun. And yeah, it's just been it's just good stuff all around. I also like that Sybil, I don't know if this is just because of, I'm not sure like why you played it this way necessarily, Amanda, but I like that Sybil was always willing to just like walk up and like do a thing, you know, or like deal with a thing, or, you know, kind of take action. I like it when characters are very like action oriented. You have to have at least one or two who are that way, right? And so that was appreciated. Yeah, and wishes, I'll be curious to see how the elements, certain story elements, especially from the Trophy Dark incursion that we played, work into this story. I'll be curious to see what is the deal with this guy that you just found in the basement, what his deal is. I've left you on quite a cliffhanger. And so, yeah, it'll be fun to play out.
Stars and wishes for me. Obeya, Chaotic, thanks for humoring that question. To me, the logic all makes sense. Watching, you know, the doll Yulia melt obviously I didn't know Revel had ever thought about being a parent until right that moment. So that was fun to learn. But yeah, thanks. That whole conversation was super fun. And Yulia's death, that whole thing that sparked that, definitely star to Jason. That was one of the most horrifying tabletop game endings of a character. But then my associated wish is like, I kind of want to learn more about Yulia Prime if there is one. And now I'm curious. And just, more about the mysteries in general. I'm super excited about the Trophy Dark incursion tie-ins, or at least being a part of them. If not directly knowing all about them, but that's
It
part of
might
the
be
fun
fun to
too.
go watch those videos if you have
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
because I mean it's up to you, but it might be kind of fun to like incorporate some of those details into our devil's bargains and stuff. I'm going to try
Absolutely.
to myself, so if you don't, it's fine, but if you all don't, it's fine, but because I'll make an attempt. But it was a good session, if nothing else. It was fun to watch, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I got. Oh, and I love Inda's characterization. I think that's been started enough times to make a small constellation at this point, but gotta respect.
I really like a sort of odd couple in these games. So I like the sort of Sybil Inda odd couple, and I'm a big fan of like Obeha and the really meticulous like way that they make decisions, like really studied, meticulous way. I love that. I love seeing how you do it. Chaotic, just think of like how it's just really plotted out. I've always enjoyed seeing that, and it, more in evidence. And just that conversation at the end was great, and just how Jason just kept shifting it up and down with the uncanny valley and varying it, and just like tweaking it enough that it stayed consistently unnerving, even though and there's so many versions of the same thing. It really had this sort of classic vibe, and that melting voice was really something, even by your standards, I think.
Fabulous. Is that everyone on Stars and Wishes?
Just another little wish for Gerald to continue doing
Oh,
his
the goat.
thing,
Yeah.
following us around.
We
I
can
just
get Gerald in
imagine that
there.
he's just off, like down the road somewhere, snacking on some weeds.
He's like eating Yulia, what's left of her.
Yeah, like,
He's
yeah, just no concept of what's going on.
I love it. Okay, well, if there are no other Stars and Wishes, we are right at time. So let's wave goodbye to everyone watching the video. We'll be back next week.